Why you avoid thinking, even when you know you should. You think you're in control of your mind, you really do. Every morning you wake up, make decisions, form opinions, judge people, weigh risks, and you do all of it with this quiet confidence that you are the one calling the shots. But what if I told you there's something else running the show? Something faster than you. Something that decided before you even noticed. Something that's been making choices in your name for your entire life. And you've been signing off on them without reading the fine print. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Thinking is exhausting. Not a little tired, exhausting. Physically, measurably, exhausting. When your brain kicks into deep thought mode, the real kind, the kind where you actually wrestle with a hard problem, your pupils dilate, your blood pressure rises, your heart beats faster, your muscles tighten, your body knows when you're really thinking. And here's what's wild. The moment you stop, the second you give up or find an answer, everything relaxes. Pupils shrink back, heart slows down, the tension disappears. Your brain treats hard thinking like a physical workout. So what does it do when it has the option to not work out? Exactly what you do. It takes the easy way out. There are two systems living inside your head, not in a poetic sense, in a very literal, neurologically documented sense. Researchers who spent decades studying the mind gave them boring names, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is the fast one. It runs constantly, silently, automatically. It reads faces, it detects danger, it finishes your sentences. It drives your car while you're thinking about something else. It answers 2 + 2 without a single conscious effort from you. It just works, effortlessly, invisibly, all day long. System 2 is the slow one. It's the part of you that can actually do the math when the problem is hard, the part that can hold multiple ideas at once, the part that lets you carefully compare two options before making a big decision. But System 2 is lazy, deeply structurally lazy. It only shows up when it absolutely has to. And the moment it sees an opportunity to pass the work back to System 1, it does. Here's where it gets unsettling. You think you live in System 2. You identify with it. The thinking you, the conscious you, the you that makes decisions, that's System 2. That's who you believe yourself to be. But System 1 is the real author. Most of your opinions, most of your gut feelings, most of the things you're convinced you arrived at through careful reasoning. System 1 drafted them long before you ever sat down to think it through. System 2 just showed up after the fact to explain the decision that had already been made. And here's what nobody wants to hear. You don't avoid thinking because you're lazy. You avoid thinking because thinking hurts. And your brain has spent millions of years getting very, very good at avoiding anything that hurts. Now let me show you exactly how this plays out in your real life. Because this isn't abstract. This is happening to you right now, today, probably in ways that are costing you more than you realize. Think about the last time someone told you something that made you uncomfortable, a fact that contradicted what you already believed, a statistic that didn't match your instincts, a piece of information that, if true, would mean you'd been wrong about something for a long time. What did you do? You probably dismissed it faster than you can explain why. And here's the thing. You had a reason. You always have a reason. The source wasn't reliable. The timing was off. It was missing context. There was something about the framing that bothered you. But ask yourself honestly, did you actually evaluate those reasons? Or did you feel the discomfort first, and then go looking for the reasons to justify what you'd already decided to feel? System 1 moved first. System 2 just wrote the justification. There's a name for this in cognitive psychology. It's called cognitive ease, and it might be the most dangerous thing in your head that you've never heard of. Your brain is constantly monitoring how easy it is to process information. When things feel smooth, familiar, fluent, it signals safe. When things feel slow, effortful, unfamiliar, it signals threat. And here's the cruel trick. That signal wasn't built to help you find the truth. It was built to help you survive. The ideas that feel true to you, the ones that don't require any mental effort to accept, those are often just the ones that are most familiar. The ones you've heard the most times, the ones that match what people around you believe, the ones that are wrapped in confident, fluent, easy-to-read language. None of that has anything to do with accuracy. There's a documented experiment where the same arguments were presented to people in two versions, one printed in a clear, easy-to-read font and one in a lighter, harder-to-read font. The people who read the harder-to-read version were more skeptical, more critical, more likely to actually question what they were reading. The ones who read the easy version, they just believed it. That's not a bug in broken people. That's a feature in every human brain. Easy equals safe, hard equals suspect. So what happens when System 1 encounters a question it can't answer? It does something remarkable, something that sounds like a glitch, but is actually very deliberate. It answers a different question. When confronted with a hard question, one that would require real mental effort, real analysis, real uncertainty, System 1 quietly substitutes an easier question, one it can answer, one that feels related, and then it hands back that answer as if it were responding to the original. You've experienced this, you just didn't have a name for it. Someone asks you whether an investment will pay off in 10 years. Hard question, lots of variables, genuine uncertainty. But before your brain engages with all of that complexity, System 1 slides in and whispers, "Do I like this person? Do I trust this? Does this feel right?" And suddenly you've answered those questions instead, and you think you've done the financial analysis. The scary part is that this substitution is invisible. You don't know it happened. You feel confident. You feel like you reasoned through it. You feel like you considered all the angles. You didn't. And this is why smart people make the same kinds of mistakes as everyone else. It's not about intelligence. System 2 can be very smart, very educated, very capable, and still spend most of its time writing elegant justifications for whatever System 1 already decided. Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. What are you certain about? Not things you've thought about recently, the things you just know. The stuff that feels solid beneath your feet. Your opinions about your job, your relationships, the kind of person you are, the reasons things happened the way they did in your life. How many of those certainties were actually earned? How many were just absorbed? There's something researchers call the illusion of understanding. It's the gap between how much you think you know about something and how much you actually know. And the gap is almost always bigger than you'd expect, not because you're ignorant, but because the feeling of understanding and actual understanding are completely different experiences that are almost impossible to tell apart from the inside. Here's a simple test. Pick something you believe you understand reasonably well. A political policy, how a zipper works, the causes of a historical event. Now try to explain it, step by step, in detail. Not the general idea, but the actual mechanism from start to finish. Most people discover a void where their knowledge was supposed to be, and they had no idea that void was there. Because System 1 had been generating the feeling of understanding without any of the actual content. But wait. It gets deeper. It's not just that your brain takes shortcuts in how it thinks. It's that your brain takes shortcuts in how it remembers, and then builds a false sense of inevitability around whatever happened. After any major event, an election, a business failure, a breakup, a market crash, people immediately feel like they knew it was going to happen. I had a feeling about this. It was pretty obvious when you think about it. The signs were all there, but were they? Or did your memory quietly rewrite the story with the ending already known? This is a pattern so reliable, so consistent, so thoroughly documented that researchers have reproduced it in labs around the world. It isn't just self-serving. It isn't just ego protection. It's a structural feature of the way memory works. Your brain doesn't store events the way a hard drive stores files. It reconstructs them every single time you access them, and each reconstruction is filtered through everything you currently know, feel, and believe. Which means every time you remember something, you're also subtly editing it. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many of the lessons you've drawn from your past are actually accurate descriptions of what happened? And how many are well-constructed stories that make you the protagonist of a coherent narrative? Not asking to make you doubt everything, asking because the people who have learned to hold their own certainties a little more loosely, to question the things they feel most sure about, those are the people who consistently make better decisions, not better at being confident, better at being right. Here's the kicker though, knowing all of this doesn't protect you. That's what makes it genuinely unsettling. You can read every word of this and still fall into the same traps tomorrow. Not because you weren't paying attention, but because these systems don't pause when you become aware of them. System 1 doesn't hear you say, "I know about cognitive bias now." It keeps running. It keeps substituting. It keeps generating feelings of certainty about things that haven't been examined. The only thing that changes is whether System 2 shows up to question what System 1 just handed it. And that requires effort. Real, deliberate, uncomfortable effort. The kind your brain was designed to avoid. So where does that leave you? You've been living in a house where the automatic systems have been running everything: lights, temperature, security, and you thought you were the one managing it all. And in a way you were. But the settings were adjusted before you even moved in. This is the thing that stays with me about all of this research. It's not pessimistic. It doesn't mean you're incapable of real thought. It doesn't mean your instincts are always wrong or your feelings are always misleading. System 1 is brilliant at what it does. Experts develop genuine intuition, a firefighter who senses something wrong before he can explain why, a chess master who sees the winning move in seconds. Those are System 1 at its best. Pattern recognition so deep it looks like magic. The problem isn't the fast thinking. The problem is not knowing when to stop trusting it. And here's what changes when you really absorb this, not just intellectually, but in a way that actually sticks. You start noticing the feeling of certainty separately from the thing you're certain about. You start asking, do I believe this because I've actually thought about it, or because it felt easy? Do I dismiss this because it's actually wrong, or because it made me uncomfortable? Am I reacting to the information or to the package it came in? You start holding a little more space for the possibility that you might be wrong about something you feel completely right about. And that space, that small, uncomfortable, effortful space, is where better decisions get made. Here's what nobody tells you about the people who consistently think well. They don't trust themselves less. They question themselves more. They've learned that the feeling of being sure is not the same as being right, and they've built habits around that difference. They slow down when they feel most certain. They ask one more question when they feel most confident. They look for the evidence against their own position before they finalize it, not because they enjoy being wrong, but because they understand that their brain's first draft is usually optimized for comfort, not accuracy. Every important decision you will ever make in your life is going to happen in a mind that doesn't want to do the work, a mind that will offer you a quick, confident, comfortable answer, and a feeling of certainty to go with it. You can take that answer, or you can pause. Ask yourself, is this the answer to the question I actually asked? Or is this the answer to the easier question that replaced it without my permission? That pause, that one deliberate moment of friction between the quick answer and the accepted answer, is the whole game. Not intelligence, not information, not willpower, just the willingness to make your brain do the work it was designed to avoid. Somewhere right now, someone just read exactly what you read, had the same reaction, felt the same recognition, and then closed the tab and went back to the comfortable certainty they started with. And somewhere else, someone paused, just for a second, and started to question something they'd never questioned before. That second person? They're on a completely different path now. The question is which one you're choosing to be.